I invite you to return to Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. This is the basis for our message today, Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 through 16. These are the words of Jesus. Ye are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing but to be cast out, and to be trodden under foot of men. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. And it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Amen. I want to talk about you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Nothing clever, just what Jesus said. You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. One of the television programs that we watch at home pretty regularly is CSI Las Vegas. I take that to mean you watch it too. The initials CSI stand for Crime Scene Investigation. The program is a police drama about forensic investigators who work meticulously examining evidence from crime scenes using the most advanced scientific and technological methods to solve puzzling crimes that otherwise would never be solved and therefore would not bring criminals to justice. The investigative team is a part of the police force in Las Vegas, Nevada, which has been called Sin City, USA. It's not the TV program that I want to talk with you about today. It's the theme song of the program that I bring to your attention. A singing group called The Who sings the theme song as the show comes on. The chorus of the song says, "Well, who are you? I really want to know. Tell me, who are you? 'Cause I really want to know." At the same time, the background singers are saying, "Who are you? Who? 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 Who?" The words of that song form the basis of the crime scene investigators' work. Sometimes they work to identify who the person is who was killed, and they always investigate to determine who the person was that committed the crime. Let me ask you a question. Who are you? Who are you? Not that I really want to know, but more importantly, do you know who you are? I don't mean what is your name, but who are you as a Christian? What does being a Christian mean to you? What's the difference about you now that you are a Christian? Who are you? There are a number of adjectives, descriptives, and metaphors that the Bible uses to help us know who Christians are. For example, in Acts chapter 5, verse 14, Christians are called believers. In Romans 7:1, we are referred to as brethren. In Romans 8:16, Christians are called children of God. And Ephesians 5:8, children of light. In Acts 9:25, we're called disciples. And in Romans 8:33, the elect. Christians are described throughout the New Testament as sheep, soldiers, strangers, witnesses, etc., etc. In our text, Jesus tells his disciples and us who are believers in him and who follow him, who we really are. In the Open Bible, which is my favorite go-to biblical resource, this section of the Sermon on the Mount is referred to as the similitudes. A similitude is something that is similar to something else. And Jesus says in the text that Christians are similar to two things that we are familiar with and that we'll examine today. I need to deliver a prelude to the text by saying that Jesus expects every Christian to become like him. That's the essence of being a Christian. When one becomes a believer in Jesus, he then becomes a follower of Jesus. We follow him because we believe. We believe in who he is. We believe in what he did. We believe in what he teaches. And we believe it so that we strive to live and do as he has commanded us to. Therefore, who we are is tied directly to who Jesus is. Listen to who Jesus says he is. In John chapter 6, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. In John 8, he says, I am the light of the world. He said in John 10, I am the gate of the sheepfold, and I am the good shepherd. Jesus also said, I am the resurrection and the life, the way, the truth, and the life, and he says, he is the true vine. These metaphors only begin to describe who Jesus is. The Bible is filled with other terms that give us more of an understanding of who he is. And as we study Christ and come to know him better, it becomes more clear who we are. Every Christian's goal should be to become more like Jesus. In the text, Jesus tells us, in part at least, who we are as followers of him. In these 4 verses, Jesus uses 2 objects which the people of his day were very familiar with to teach a lesson about who we are as his disciples. Let's study and gain a better understanding of who Jesus says we are. First, Jesus compares Christians to a natural item called salt. Yes, salt. That stuff that you shake too much of it on your food and it gives you high blood pressure. During the time of the text, salt was highly valued. It was an expensive commodity. The Greeks called salt divine. Let's first examine the character of salt. Salt works wonders when it's in its purest form of sodium chloride, when it hasn't been contaminated, when it doesn't contain foreign matter. The Romans said salt was the purest of all things. The Jews in the Old Testament used salt with the meat of animals when they made sacrificial offerings to God. Jesus says in the text, Christians are salt. We are to have similar qualities to to salt. Like salt, Christians are to be pure in our commitment to God and what he teaches us. Our thoughts must be pure. Our behavior must be pure. Our speech and actions must be purely aligned with what Jesus teaches in the scriptures. A Christian's pureness, his or her filtered life, separated life, should reflect that he or she is striving to live an uncontaminated life. The Christian must be genuine, authentic, without pretending. God's standards are high. His expectations are high. We must have high moral standards and be very conscientious about whether we're living up to God's standards. We are the salt of the earth. You are pure. You are the real thing. Or are you? You are true to God. Or are you? You are not acting like a Christian. You are a Christian. Aren't you? You are the salt of the earth. Observe also that salt preserves. Something about salt's character preserves what it comes in contact with. It keeps that upon which it connects from spoiling. It preserves it. Salt is used overwhelmingly in the foods processing industry to preserve foods, canned foods, meats, processed foods. I used to see my daddy preserve pork with salt in the smokehouse. My mom and grandma, I saw preserve vegetables and fruits like string beans and butter beans, corn, squash, peaches, apples, and pickled cucumbers and beets and watermelon rinds using salt as a brine to preserve the food, and they stored it in mason jars. And then during the winter, they'd pull those jars out from the pantry and cook that food that had been stored since the summer, and it was still delicious. Salt preserved foods for months. Jesus says Christians are the salt that we are to preserve. We are to preserve the good around us. It's our duty to preserve our good relationships in our families and our churches and our communities. Where there is corruption, Christians are to be cleansing agents. You are the antiseptic of the community, of the environment. In the Old Testament, salt was a symbol of preserving the people's covenant with God. You and I must preserve our covenant with God, our promises to God, what we agreed to God. God never breaks a covenant promise with us. We must preserve our part of the covenant with him. Don't let God down. Don't drift away, fall away, be drawn away from doing what we promised God we'd do when we became saved, when we repented of sins. You are a Christian preserver. You are the salt of the earth. We also know that one of the major characteristics of salt is that it adds flavor to what it comes in contact with. No cook's kitchen is equipped for preparing a delicious meal without having salt in it. Salt even adds flavor to what is already good. Some foods are bland. They have little flavor. But when salt is added, it enhances the taste of that food. It draws out the flavor and makes your eating more pleasurable and satisfying. Our Christian lives should do the same thing. Our presence should make the room a more pleasant place. Wherever you go, you are a representative of God the Father and Jesus. Don't shame God by acting in some way that is contrary to the character that he expects of you. Christians are to flavor our homes, and we are to flavor our places of employment and our communities with Christ-like demeanors and with his high standards. Isn't it interesting that Jesus compares us to salt instead of sugar? Note especially that Jesus said, "But if the salt has lost its strength, it's good for nothing." Good, even outstanding athletes eventually lose their strength and must either retire or be dropped from team rosters and get normal jobs like you and I have. When their strength, their mobility, their speed and quickness, their sharpness of skills is gone, they are no longer able to participate competitively, so they move on off the scene, off the court, or off the playing field. So keep yourself strong with the character of salt that is pure, that preserves, and that flavors like Jesus, like God desires of you. You are the salt of the earth. Not only does Jesus say you are the salt of the earth, he says also that you are the light of the world. So what does that mean? Here are some characteristics of light, some things that light accomplishes, things that occur when light shines. There are others, but I'll mention three. When light becomes present, darkness leaves. When light appears, darkness disappears. Darkness and light cannot occupy the same space at the same time. When the sun rises each morning, darkness runs and hides until the next evening when the sun decides to set in the west again. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." Your job is to shine bright in the world for the world's good. You are to bring grace and mercy, knowledge and understanding into the space you occupy in an effort to disperse the darkness of sin and all that is ungodly. You are an ambassador of Jesus Christ to the world. So shining Christian light will make darkness disappear. Then know that light reveals things. Light makes things visible that cannot be seen in the dark. Turn the light on at night and turn the light off at night and try to locate an object in the room. The remote control for your television, your telephone, your shoes. That's difficult to say the least, and sometimes impossible. Try standing on the porch or the stoop in the dark of night and attempt to put your key into the keyhole of the door. You need light first to find the right key, and then to find the keyhole. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." You make the environment where you are a place where others can see Jesus. Light will also reveal bad things too. It reveals sin as well as holiness. Light makes the difference in the two very clear. Then light also serves to guide. Have you ever tried to walk through a dark room? Did you bump into furniture? Did you stomp your toe? That hurts, doesn't it? We do something at home that I'm sure many of you do. We keep flashlights at various locations in the house in case the electricity goes out at night. The light from the flashlight is a guiding light. The psalmist said in Psalm 119, 105, "Thy word is a light unto my feet, and a lamp unto my feet, and a light unto my path." When we utilize the word of God as our light, we can shine and shed light so others can walk in the path of righteousness. Following this, Jesus said, "Since you are the light of the world, let your light shine." Don't turn the switch off. Don't cover the light up. Let your light shine. Be intentional and let your light and your life reflect the life of Jesus Christ. Let the world see God in you. Don't hinder the light of Jesus from shining out from you. And I might add that having light shouldn't be a problem because Jesus is your source of light. The psalmist said, "The Lord is my light and my salvation." Jesus says the reason to let light shine, your light shine, is so that others may see your good works, your good deeds, your acts of kindness, your care and compassion, your genuine concern for your fellow man. Let the world see Jesus through you. Don't worry about whether they see you. Let your light shine so that they see your good works. Jesus said, "I must work while it is day, while the light is shining, before night comes." And you and I must do the same. Work while we can, while it's day. And the reason to let your light shine is so that when others do see your good works, they will give God glory for what he has done through you. You do know that God deserves the glory. All the praise belongs to him. You ask why. There are lots of reasons why, but let me just tell you one. It's found in John 3:16. "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but should have everlasting life." That's enough right there. For that, God deserves all of the glory, all of the praise. I close today by reminding you what the Romans once said. There is nothing more useful than sun and salt. And Jesus agreed. And that's why he's telling us to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Know that Jesus says, "You are," emphasis on you are, the salt and the light. You are the message of the gospel. You are the model Christians. You are the ambassadors of Jesus. You are the voices in the wilderness. You are the closest thing to Christ that the world has to see. You are his hands and his feet. You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. That's you. That's you. You are the salt and the light. The Apostle Paul said, You are proof that Jesus lives. Your life, your character, your spirit are to be reflective of Jesus Christ. Your integrity, your moral fiber, your reputation as a Christian is to be the salt and the light in your home, in your church, in your community. Your name, your lifestyle, your credibility is the salt and the light that people see. Christ died to save the world. And when you believed in him, you died to sin. You died to sin when you became saved. And Christ took up residence in your life. He lives in you so that he can shine through you. But you have to let him shine. Christ is there, but it's up to you whether you open the blinds or not, whether you flip the switch or not, whether you turn on the light or not, whether you allow others to see Christ or not. It's up to you. I remind you that Jesus did not ask you to be. He said, you are. You are. He didn't say, Christian, try to be salt and light. He said, you are salt and light. He didn't say it would be a good gesture on your part to be salt and light. He says, you are salt and light. And he didn't say, these on this side of salt, these on this side of light. He said to every individual, you are both salt and light. He declared that you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. You might think that's a heavy responsibility to lay on me, but Jesus says, you're it. That's you. That's who you are. Certainly, you might need to work on becoming better at it, but you're already the salt and the light. You may need to work on strengthening the taste of your saltiness, but you are salt. You are light. If you're a Christian, it's in you. You don't have to go anywhere to get it. It's there. You just have to decide to let it out so that the world can benefit from what they see and taste in you. That's an awesome responsibility, isn't it? But you know, we ought to be glad and feel privileged to have that responsibility, because the Jesus who told us that's who we are, he went to a hill called Calvary. took salt and light to Calvary and hung salt and light on the cross and died on the cross on a Friday afternoon. And earlier than we met at church today, he got up. And when he got up, salt came up. And when he got up, the light shined. Early Sunday morning, Christ delivered to the world what he says you and I ought to be delivering today. People ought not have to question who we are. Just our presence, just our demeanor, just who we are says to the world, I believe he knows Jesus. He's kind of salty. He's kind of bright. It must have come from the God that's in him. And that's the way we ought to be every day, all day long. Salty and shining. Salty and shining. Salty and bright. Because Jesus said, you are present tense. Perfect present tense. Because you are right now, and a minute from now, Jesus will still say, you are. Not you have been. And not exactly you will be, because if you are now, you should never change. Just stay like you are. Salt and light. And everything will be all right. And then when you die and go to heaven, when you stand before the judge at the judgment seat of Christ, he can say, come on in. Salty, shiny, come on in. Salty, shiny, come on in. Salty, shiny, come on in. Come on in. Deacons, come on up. The doors of the church are open. The choir's going to sing our song of invitation. That is that Jesus says, if you're not a Christian, he knows you're not salty and shiny. But he's already fixed it so you can be. If you believe. If you believe in him, that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God, he says you shall be saved. And then you can live that life where you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Is there somebody here today who'll trust Jesus with your life? Know that he saved you and made heaven your home? Closed the door to hell on you? Is there somebody today who'll say yes to Jesus? If that's you, will you come? If that's you, accept the invitation from Christ. Maybe you're already a Christian, member of another church. Maybe you've backslidden after being baptized some time ago. But Jesus is saying, come back home. Return home. Maybe you're a member of another church and the Spirit says, join First Cosmopolitan and become a part of the fellowship here. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Will you come? Walk in the light. Of mercy shine bright. Shine all around us by day and by night. Would you stand, please? Beautiful light, come where the dew drops, mercy shine bright, shine all around us by day and by night. Jesus, the light of the world. Dear God, our Father, thank you for this worship experience. Thank you for reminding us of who we are, the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Help us when we let our light shine, when we allow ourselves to be known as Christians, as followers of Jesus. Help us to stand strong and declare that Jesus lives and that those who believe in him shall be saved. Now may the grace of God and the sweet communion of his Holy Spirit rest and abide with you and keep you now, henceforth, and forevermore. God bless you. Have a great week.